Welcome back to the deep dive. So, our job, as always, is to take a whole bunch of sources, articles, notes, research, and really boil them down into the most useful immediate knowledge nuggets for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And today, we're doing something maybe a little unexpected. We're trying to pull out some, pretty profound, high-impact lessons from a source that looks, well, almost deceptively simple on the surface. It's excerpts from the story, Tiny Tim and the Pencil Parade.
Right. And it might sound like, just a kid's story, but our mission today is really to show you how this narrative maps incredibly well onto some complex ideas. Things like disruptive innovation, using constraints to your advantage, and even how we define self-worth professionally.
Interesting.
So if you're prepping for a meeting maybe, or just want to get a handle on the psychology behind creative breakthroughs, this deep dive is actually a surprisingly rich shortcut.
Okay, so we're focusing on this place, Scribbleton, and their big annual event in September, the Pencil Parade.
Yeah.
And you're saying this isn't just like a fun school thing.
Oh, no, not at all. Think of it more like a professional proving ground. It establishes the whole creative hierarchy in their community.
Got it. So let's dive in and see how one very small pencil ends up kind of redefining what success actually looks like there. #1. Establishing the setting in the hierarchy of talent.
Okay, so let's unpack this whole setup first. When we talk about the Pencil Parade, we're essentially talking about a culture built around established creative talent, right? Is that the idea?
That's exactly it, yeah. This event is like the highlight of their year. In Scribbleton, pencils aren't just tools. They're really seen as individual performers, each with a personality.
Okay.
And every September, they march to showcase their unique talents, but talents that are, polished, practiced, repeatable. It's very much a celebration of, let's say, predictable excellence.
Predictable excellence. I like that. And the source material really calls out the big names, doesn't it? The sort of celebrity participants, the ones setting the bar super high. Oh, absolutely. You've got the gold standards of what traditional success looks like in Scribbleton. There's Polly the Pink Pencil. She's famous for her really delicate, beautiful flowers. She kind of represents precision, classical skill.
Right.
Then there's Benny the Blue Pencil. He was more about playful humor, always sketching these, silly but intricate sea creatures.
Okay, so different styles, but both very defined.
Very defined, yes. But the one who really dials up the required flash, as you said, is Goldie the Glitter Pencil.
Goldie.
Goldie is like the pinnacle of just sheer outward performance. She sparkled so much. Get this, the source actually knows she needed sunglasses.
Needed sunglasses. Okay, that tells you a lot.
That tells you everything, right? About the environment. Success isn't just what you create, it's how brightly you shine while you're doing it. And that level of established, flashy talent, well, it can be incredibly intimidating if you're trying to break in.
Yeah, I could see that. I love the image, though. Established talent needing polarized lenses. That's peak creative arrogance, isn't it?
Sort of, yeah. And that atmosphere around this whole performance, it's described as intensely supportive, but that almost increases the pressure, the pressure to conform.
How so?
Well, the festive vibe just amplifies the weight of expectation. You have kids lining the streets, holding up notebooks like they're flags, almost worshiping these pencils.
Wow.
And the other supplies, the crayons are doing cartwheels, the erasers are bouncing along like drummers playing their supporting roles. It's this whole system where every piece knows its place, and excellence means fitting into those established roles perfectly.
Okay, so now let's bring in Tiny Tim. He's described as a stubby yellow pencil. So, right away, he's defined by a limitation, isn't he?
Immediately, yeah.
And in a community that seems obsessed with heightened brightness, his internal struggle makes a lot of sense.
It really does. And his core conflict is something I think anyone in a professional setting can relate to, Tiny Tim looks at this whole parade. He sees Goldie's height and shine, Polly's amazing skill, and the thought that just takes over is, I'm too small, no one will notice me. And that immediately frames our discussion. It's not just simple self-doubt. It's about the danger of measuring your own professional value against metrics that were maybe never designed for you in the first place.
Right. He sees being stubby not just as like a physical thing, but as a lack of a competitive edge. He can't draw those perfect flowers. He definitely can't sparkle. He feels irrelevant.
Pretty much. And what's really crucial to analyze here is that initial gap. The big name pencils have these defined, specialized talent, drawing specific things really well. Tim's problem isn't necessarily a lack of ability overall, but it's a lack of a defined market niche, something that fits the existing structure. He's caught in that professional comparisonitis, you could call it.
Comparisonitis, yeah.
Where the established visible metrics, the height, the glitter, the specialization, they stop him from even recognizing the potential value hidden in his own unique constraints.
So he's not even trying to perform at this point. He's basically trying to hide because he hasn't figured out how to make his difference work within that existing paradigm.
Exactly right. The paradigm only rewards the planned, the polished, the high-gloss performance. Tim represents that sort of latent, untapped potential that just hasn't found the right way to express itself because it doesn't look like what the system expects or values. He's stuck in that loop of self-criticism, and it's all coming from these external measurements.
Okay. But then this is where the whole narrative takes a sharp turn, right? Tim's big contribution, it doesn't come from, hours of practice or trying to fit in. It comes from a moment of pure, unplanned disruption.
Yeah.
Physical disruption.
Yeah, it's almost like he has to fail to succeed.
Right. How does it happen?
Well, think about the parade setting again. Precision, smooth execution, that's the whole point. The pencils are marching with that steady, rhythmic tap, tap, tap sound. Everything is perfectly ordered.
Okay.
And then comes the catalyst. And it wasn't some huge obstacle. The source says it was just a pebble.
A pebble.
The most mundane, smallest thing you could imagine. That's what causes the shift. He trips over it. And it's often like that, isn't it? It's the small, maybe ignored systemic flaw or unexpected event that suddenly creates an opportunity. The pebble is like that unexpected market change or the minor crisis, the moment the system glitches and demands improvisation.
So he trips. And then what? Does he just fall?
No. Instead of just falling flat, Tiny Tim rolls. Because he's short and stubby, he rolls. And he rolls right into this huge poster, which, ironically, was meant to celebrate the planned, perfect artistry of the parade.
Oh, the irony. And the action itself, the sound is described so well.
Yeah, that fantastic sound. Scribble, scribble, swoosh. It's chaotic, it's fast. His short tip, the very thing he saw as a flaw, is what allows him to create this rapid, messy, effect.
Scribble, scribble, swoosh. I love that.
That sound effect perfectly captures the speed and the spontaneity of it. It's like iteration, but by accident.
And the crowd's reaction is key here, too, isn't it?
Absolutely key. First, the gasp. There's shock. He's breached the decorum. He's ruined the poster. But then almost immediately they cheer.
You cheer?
Yeah. That quick pivot from shock to celebration, it tells you there was this underlying, maybe unconscious hunger for something different, something authentic and disruptive, something beyond the perfect flowers and the blinding glitter.
And then the girl names it, right? That cements the moment.
That cements it. He made a rainbow tornado. And think about that name. It wasn't just a drawing. It was an event. It was motion captured on paper. Yeah. Pure energy.
Okay, now we need to push past just the simple moral of the story, be yourself. We love the story, obviously.
Yeah.
But how do we apply this in a real way without just, waiting around for a magical accident to happen?
Yeah.
Isn't there a risk we're just sort of glorifying a lucky break?
That is a really critical question, and it's the difference between truly capitalizing on chaos and just benefiting from random chance.
Yeah.
See, Tiny Tim succeeded not just because he tripped.
Okay.
He succeeded because his specific physical nature, the stubbiness he hated, allowed him to capitalize on that trip in a totally unique way. Think about it. A taller pencil, like Goldie, would have probably just snapped or broken. Ah, right, they're brittle.
Exactly. Tiny Tim had the specific constraint, his shortness and roundness, that actually made rolling, and therefore the tornado, possible.
So his weakness, the thing he perceived as a weakness, was actually his disruptive strength.
Precisely. And this connects directly to that professional concept we talked about.
Yeah.
Leveraging constraints.
Yeah.
His shorter length meant his rotational velocity when he rolled was inherently different from the taller pencils. His output, the rainbow tornado, was fundamentally distinct. It literally couldn't be replicated by Polly or Benny because they didn't have his specific limitation.
That's fascinating. I'm also struck by the fact that the community, Scribbleton, they didn't demand an apology for the ruined poster or anything. What does that tell us about their realization?
I think it tells us they had maybe reached a point of creative stagnation without even knowing it. They might have been getting a little bored with the polished perfection, the predictable excellence of the established stars.
The chaos of the rainbow tornado felt authentic. It was spontaneous. It was utterly new. It shifted the focus from quality in the traditional sense, how perfect is the flower, to novelty and authenticity. It changed the value proposition from best execution of the known to most unique impact.
So the messy rainbow tornado Basically becomes the definition of disruptive innovation within their little marketplace. Completely broke all the rules that the taller, fancier pencils had spent their whole lives perfecting.
Absolutely. And the collective agreement in Scribbleton afterwards, that was powerful. The source says they agreed the parade wasn't really about who was tallest or brightest after all. It was about each pencil adding its own unique creative spark.
Right.
They realized, maybe, that if you only ever look for perfect flowers and silly sea creatures, you might completely miss the cyclone of color rolling right past you. And that's the intellectual leap needed here. Tiny Tim didn't change his art style. He changed the medium rolling instead of drawing, and he changed the metric of success by embracing his limitations.
Wow. Okay, he didn't try to be Goldie. He redefined what a pencil could even do in that moment.
So if we distill this deep dive into really actionable insights for you, the listener, we need to move beyond just the nice moral statement and focus on the practical side. How do you apply this idea of uniqueness in a competitive field?
Right. So what does this analysis actually mean when you're maybe facing your own version of Goldie the glitter pencil at work or in your industry? What's the first big takeaway?
Okay, the first core takeaway, I think, is about defining your market by your constraints. Remember, Tiny Tim's stubbiness wasn't really a liability in the end. It was the mechanism that allowed him to create the tornado.
Right.
So professionally, you need to identify the things about you or your situation that seems like limitations. Maybe it's a lack of certain resources, maybe it's specialized but seemingly small experience, maybe a non-traditional background. These aren't just flaws to be overcome. They are potentially design constraints that can force you into creating unique, competitive, and ultimately highly differentiated work.
Okay, that reframes being different. It's not just a nice to have, it's potentially a core business strategy. What's the second insight then?
The second one centers on the power of the catalyst. That pebble, it wasn't planned, was it?
Yeah.
But Tiny Tim was sort of primed for it by his nature. The lesson here is maybe to stop feeling the small stumbles so much. You know, the minor setbacks, the things that interrupt the smooth tap, tap, tap of routine. Often these little crises are the necessary catalysts. They force us to abandon that polished conformity we strive for and actually engage our unique constraints. So the advice is, if you stumble, try rolling. Don't just scramble to stand back up and get back in line.
Don't apologize for the chaos, maybe explore it. Okay, and the third point for making your mark.
It's really about measuring impact, not
Yeah.
just Polish. The Scribbleton community recognized the value of that rainbow tornado instantly, didn't they? Even though it was messy and accidental.
Yeah, they did.
So stop measuring your success only against the established metrics, the height, the brightness, the specific specializations like Polly's flowers. Instead, focus on measuring the unique impact you make, the immediate attention you grab, the novelty factor of the mark that only you can create because of who you are.
Interesting.
You really don't have to be the biggest or the brightest to shine. You just have to be yourself, fully leveraging your unique constraints, and you will make a fundamentally different and often unexpectedly bigger mark.
That's a really compelling way to reframe vulnerability, isn't it? We often spend so much energy trying to sand down our own stubby edges to look more professional or fit in,
Yeah,
that maybe we remove the very quality that could make our contribution uniquely valuable.
indeed. I think the ultimate teaching here from Tiny Tim's journey isn't really about finding some hidden new talent. It was about accepting his unique physics, his constraints, and then letting a moment of chaos turn what he thought was a flaw into a defining function. Hashtag tag outro.
Okay, so a quick recap of that core insight. Sometimes the biggest, most memorable impression doesn't come from trying to perfectly imitate those who seem tallest or brightest,
Right.
but from an unexpected, uniquely creative move that maybe even embraces a perceived limitation.
Absolutely. And maybe that leaves you, the listener, with a final thought to chew on, something building on that idea of the unexpected result.
Okay.
If Tiny Tim hadn't embraced that accidental moment with the pebble, if he'd only seen it as a failure, a mistake, something to be embarrassed about, that unique, powerful mark would have just been lost forever.
True.
So the question for you is, what small, maybe accidental moments in your own professional or creative life, things that felt like a mistake, a stumble, or a limitation at the time, could you potentially re-examine right now? And maybe even celebrate as the surprising start of your own disruptive rainbow tornado.
That's a great question to end on. Think about how you can use your own unique, maybe even stubby qualities to add your own creative spark this week. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.